Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Lo-Fi History here at the Northeast Georgia History Center. We've got Marie. Hey Marie!
Hello.
And we've got a very German-looking Glen. Hello Glen! Yes, that is the proper German wave, as is tradition. And if this is your first time joining us, this is your chance to ask our wonderful historians, Glen and Marie, your history questions. And while I get to learn a whole lot with you, so we always like to have, I see we've got a fair amount of people here today, which is nice,
good.
a nice little crowd. So if this is your first time, this is the opportunity to go ahead and chat your questions. We've got Guada behind the scenes monitoring the chat so she can get all of your questions and also do a little research if you've stumped our historians, which is always kind of fun when we get to do a little live research too. So I see that we've got Nick is here. Hello, Nick.
Hey.
Good to see you, Nick. And we also have Josh. Hey, Josh.
Hello.
Good to see you, Josh. Richard is also here. Hey, Richard! Laura is here. Hey, Laura!
Hello.
And Laura says, tech issues? Yes, Laura, we did have some tech issues, but we're live now. Yay! And, Olivia is here. Hey, Olivia! So good to see you. And Karen is here. Karen says, hey, Karen, first of all. And Karen says, the Kaiser has returned.
That's right.
Yes. This is not your first Kaisership? I don't know. So,
I like Kaiser.
I like that, yeah. So we like to start out with what y'all are wearing because it is always so interesting. Why don't we start with the Kaiser today, and then we'll go to the beautiful Marie. So, Glen, you are representing what today?
So I'm not the Kaiser, although that would my uniforms are not fancy enough. I am just a regular old German soldier. In World War I, circa 1915. In the field, I would have a cloth cover for my clever helmet, which is called a Pickelhaube.
A Pickelhaube?
A Pickelhaube.
Ooh, that's too fun of a word.
Isn't it? You just want to say it over and over.
Pickelhaube.
And it has the nice little brass spike on the top. It's made of leather, and it has this plate on the front. And the different sections of Germany. Remember, Germany only united and became a single nation in 1871.
Wow.
So it's only been around
Germany?
for a little over 30 years.
What was it before? Was that Prussia? What was that? What?
So Prussia was one
Yeah.
of them. It was a conglomeration. At first, it was a conglomeration of about 250 to 300 small states.
That's why you have so much German royalty that doesn't actually do anything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then after the Congress of Vienna in 1815, there was a reorganization, and they got it down to only about 30 different provinces in Germany.
Wow.
But and Prussia was the largest one. Austria technically was one of those. And as Germany was trying to reunify, well, some people wanted not reunify, unification. Some people did not. Long story short, they finally get around to the Iron Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, in a war with France, was able to declare a German state and declare the head of that state Wilhelm I, who at that point was King of Prussia, but then it was named the Emperor of all Germany, and they chose the name Kaiser to call him, which of course is German for Caesar.
Okay, so is that a deep level language thing? Like we go
It
from
is,
Kaiser
yes.
to Caesar, and that's like Roman, and
Yeah, so you have to, in ancient Roman, in Latin, Caesar is Kaiser.
Kaiser.
And so when we soften it with the English language to that Caesar, and the French also soften it with their Gallic laziness, and it becomes Caesar, but in Germany it still remains Kaiser, and even the term for the Russian emperor, the Tsar, still also comes from the old Caesar, which goes to show you how many people try to harken back to those emperor days. And so the plate here is a Prussian plate, which was the largest province in Germany, but it's a cool helmet. It does not provide very much protection at all, as for mostly looks, and of course by 1916, most nations involved in World War I in major actions had gone to a steel helmet of one sort or the other.
Oh, it is really fancy looking.
And
so
I do like it. It's as I've told the people here, and I mentioned at the telethon, this was my only Black Friday purchase.
Ooh, that's pretty fun. Wow, I guess I didn't think about Black Friday sales for like living history stuff.
Oh,
so that's
yeah.
fun.
You gotta know where
Gotta
you
get
want
'em.
to. You gotta look for those Pickelhaube deals.
Yes.
We also have other friends who are joining us. Karen on Facebook, Karen A is here. It says Happy New Year. Hello, Karen. Barbara is also here. Hey, Barbara, good to see you. And Alma is here. Yay! Hello, Alma. And we also have Terry. Hey, Terry. Terry from Iowa. Nice. Well, welcome everyone. Why don't we get to Marie's outfit now? So you're looking ready for a lovely picnic or something, or maybe going to market. Tell us about your outfit, Marie.
Yes, so I am wearing, well, it's fun because 18th century, you have a much larger time span for when things are fashionable, especially since you don't have the first industrial revolution, spinning, ginning cloth and all that. So I would say this is about mid-18th century.
Oh, so 1700s, all right.
Yes,
cool,
yes,
cool.
so mid-18th century, and this is a robe à la anglaise, which means that it is a English-style gown, opposed to like a French or Italian-style gown.
Okay.
Meaning that it does not quite close in the front. It has a stomacher, which goes, of course, across my stomach, and it is embroidered. And then I will stand so you can see it.
Let's see it.
And then also the back of my gown. And this is what makes it also an English-style gown, is the way that the back is pleated all the way.
Oh, yeah, sort of like a tapering down or a narrowing, that kind of, yeah, that's cool.
And then I made it in a fun tartan-like material. It is the closest that I could find at Joann's to the Campbell tartan, because real tartan's very, very expensive.
Yeah.
So this is the closest that I can find to Clan Campbell, which is the clan that I married into and therefore am now a part of.
Oh, that's so fun! I love that. So it's sentimental and fashionable.
Yes,
I love it.
I am. Fun fact: I looked this up the other day because I was like, Someone commented on one of my videos when I was making this dress.
Yeah.
About how we would have been rival clans, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I was like, I wonder, because I am also predominantly of Scottish heritage. And I was like, that's interesting. So the Walkers were from Clan MacNalther, which is a mouthful. But we are such a large sub-clan, we get our own stuff.
Ooh.
So it's nice when you walk through Scotland, they have Walker stuff. And I'm like, yes, there's enough of us. But the only, so the Campbells have lots of enemies. They are like the leading royal clan, so it makes sense. The MacNalthers have one, which is just Clan Campbell.
Well,
so
make it simple.
wow.
It's Romeo and Juliet in Scottish Highlands.
Wow. That's
for
really
me and my
fun.
husband.
maybe one day we should have a duel,
Yes.
between you and Steven.
Yes.
So you can consume a haggis the fastest.
If it's fried haggis, it's pretty good.
You know what? I say that
Costume.
mostly because I know it has something to do with blood and it's called haggis and that sounds unappetizing. But have y'all ever tried it?
Yes.
Is it good?
I've had fried haggis.
Is it yummy?
It was fine.
All right.
Close your eyes and chew, Libba. That's how you eat.
That's how you
foods.
eat in the 1700s.
That's right.
Yes. I also was very interested in just, the Scots, they have much better food than the English, even though they are on the same island.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah.
And at least that was my experience.
I think the trope is that, maybe that's a low standard for the English food. Potatoes and meat. But, it can probably be good.
But they fried a lot of things, and I was like, that has carried over to us Southerners who have a lot of also Scotch-Irish industries. We also like to fry lots of things.
Yeah, for sure.
We like to fry everything.
Everything.
Why not?
Well, I see we've already got some questions in the chat for today. Excellent. So our first question is actually on the subject of fashion. So I know Glen will take this one. No, so this is obviously for Marie, and it's from Alma. And Alma says, not totally a theater question today, as usually that is the case. But when I was returning costumes we rented for a show and was looking at all the other costumes in the warehouse, mostly for Marie, but you all can answer, what is your favorite period of clothing? For Marie specifically, is the period you like to see the same as the period you like to wear? Oh, that's a great question. The style you can sort of appreciate more versus maybe something that's more comfortable. So when it comes to favorites, I don't know, Marie. I know that's a tough choice for you, but what would you say?
I pick one per century. my first love and the first thing that I got into was 1860s. And I do really, I still love a good 1860s silhouette. It's very hourglass. It has the giant poofy princess skirt. It's very, I personally, I think that's probably my favorite.
So if I put 1860s, like, women's fashion, maybe we can find some cool examples of for you to tell us a little bit about. So let me go ahead and go to our Let Me Google That For You page. Okay, so we've got
and I think probably is also
pictures,
one of my favorite to watch and to look at.
As
well as to wear.
So beautiful. Okay, I'm just gonna go to our Google Images and show you. So here we got some examples. I can click on them and see them in a bit fuller style. I mean, we have one example. We have sort of a silhouette example over here. So this poofiness. Yeah. Okay, so something like this is what we're talking about here. Yeah, there we are.
Yes, so that's some really good example of just regular day dresses from the 1860s. It's my left, but it might be your right.
Right.
Is a lady wearing a nice checked dress, a nice just plain day dress with a shawl, all one fabric that is a pattern that's usually a smaller pattern. Hair parted down the middle, nice little collars, buttons down the front. Very classic example of early 1860s fashion. I like this one in the middle here because it's a nice solid color dress. The sleeves are smaller pagoda sleeves, which means that they don't really have like a cuff, they just kind of drape. And then also she has a very pretty hairnet on.
Oh yeah, maybe I can zoom in a smidge.
Side profile here.
Yeah.
She looks like she's holding a letter perhaps, which is intriguing. Oh, and as you zoom in, you can see that actually does have a faint pattern to it as well. It looks like a faint striped pattern. Which is very nice, and a nice little collar, and the hoop goes from, I think this is just because she's leaned up against that railing there, but hoops do go from a more bell shape to a more elongated elliptical shape as the 1860s go on. But also I love this lady here on the other end. She's wearing a souvenir jacket and a Garibaldi shirt within a skirt set. That was very popular for very young ladies who were very fashionable. And also has to do with Garibaldi, the Italian general who led Italy to independence in the 1860s. And we did a whole program with that with Dr. Ann Tucker, didn't we?
Yeah, and she'll be doing a forum coming up soon about Italian unification, which Garibaldi pushed forward after the king of the Piedmont did kind of help. Anyway, but yes,
come to the forum.
Come to the forum because the Italian nation was politically forming about the same time as the Confederacy, and everyone was sort of looking at those. Dr. Tucker's book is really fascinating because she sort of compares the growth of the Confederacy and the growth of Italy. Of course, one is here now and one is not. But the parallels and how they looked at each other as examples of how to build a new nation state are very, very interesting. And you know what was cool? I wonder if anyone noticed on that last dress you were talking about, the actual photograph itself was hand colored. With some of those details, I noticed that little stripe.
Oh, you're right. On the other,
I love those old hand-colored images like that.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, Glenn, do you have a favorite historic fashion that you like to wear? I know you don't make a lot.
I don't make a lot, but I will tell you this: wearing those, and again, I know we're going to come back to the same old thing. Those 11th century clothes. Around the time of the Battle of Hastings and things, and I'm assuming by her question, I'm going to go with that it's just clothing and not necessarily armor and accessories. But the hosen, the braise, the long wool tunic, it just when you wear it, it's just so comfortable, and you feel springy. the way the hosen are tied up on the braise, and it just kind of it's hard.
Now, what would I look up to? What would I look up?
Look up 11th century clothing.
11th century men's Clothing. All right, let's see if we got any
what comes
any
up.
good
I've been
hits.
researching a lot of medieval clothing because we are having a medieval homeschool day coming up in February.
Yeah.
So I've been looking into how to. It's pretty easy to make.
There's a good 3 or 4 centuries there where it's all very similar, and it's just a series of squares and rectangles sewn together for men or for women.
Let's see.
Just
Here
how
we got,
long it is.
Just like the common folk. Where do I look at, like, commoner or something? Let's see. That's hilarious. Okay, how about...
There's one down there on Pinterest that's kind of close. Go over 3.
Wait, this one?
No, the other one. Direction.
This one.
No, that one.
All right.
That's kind of close.
Fun. That's fun.
That's a little more.
I wonder if I just put like medieval men's clothes. I know.
See, that's gonna give us all kinds of crazy.
Oh, it will. This is when someone said
this
it's
is like
impossible
cosplay.
to know what they wore back then because they just typed it into Google.
There we go. I don't know. Maybe this might be a nice.
No, look up.
Oh wait, no. There's that's more 14th century.
Yeah.
But
so you're talking about really like you said 1100s.
Like
illustrated
manuscripts from the 11th century.
You know what? Look up Bayeux tapestry.
There you go.
Bayeux tapestry. Any excuse to look up the Bayeux
That's right.
tapestry.
Yes.
Okay, but like where? Let's see. Let's just click on one of these guys.
Yeah, look at that. Look at those clothes there.
Look at those clothes.
So they've got on braids, which are basically big, baggy underwear.
Oh, I see.
And then they have
not pictured. You don't see.
So these are where you're talking about. Like
those are the hose. So
okay.
those are literally like gigantic socks that go from the tip of your toes up to your mid thigh, and then tie onto the waist of your braids, and then you just have on regular leather turn shoes on your feet, and over the top of that you have a very plain shirt, and over the shirt you have a very, well, depending upon your station, I like the more simple and middling stuff, a wool tunic that is cut on almost the exact same pattern as the shirt, and then you just belt it.
Nice.
And then you can throw cloaks over that. Hoods. Now, you know, if you're the king or a comte or a duke or something like that, your clothing is going to be fancier. It's going to have embroidered trim. There might be even some cloth of gold in there with lots of jewelry and bling bling. But just it's all the same.
Yeah.
I mean, the fashions. It's really a matter of quality and accessorizing because the cut is. I don't know. I always like the simple stuff.
It's comfy, it's functional, it's historic, it's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, Karen was also asking about what different periods of costumes you've made, Marie, and I know that's a whole program. In fact, we've done that.
And it still is not all of the ones I made.
Exactly, right.
It's only 400 years, I do believe.
Yeah, so Guada is going to put some links into the chat of some of Marie's fashion programs. I'm sure she's probably found the one that's like 400 years of fashion history. There's the robe à la française, which was mentioned, so y'all check those out.
Now, not to brag, but that 11th century stuff I've made, it's so easy, I can do it. Because it's squares and rectangles.
Exactly.
Did you make the hose as well? Really? Because I feel like trying to get it to fit the foot just right can be a little bit of a struggle.
The trick is to trace it.
Yes.
Trace your foot, and then you cut it on the bias, so the wool has a little bit of, it's not elastic.
But
you don't want elastic, but it's got a little bit of stretch and pull to it, and that fits your legs a little bit better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but it's so easy. That's that 11th century stuff. Even for women, it's the same thing, only longer.
Yeah, right.
That's all. Just
nice.
a little longer.
Yeah, but yes, that is the extent of Glen's stitchery. I can repair lots of things, but I can only make from scratch 11th century.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
And that's almost the same until almost the 14th century.
Almost.
Wow.
Mid 14th century is when you start seeing more like curved seams and like more fitted things, so things have to be laced.
Yeah.
And overcoats or surcoats that are go in more and have more curvage, which has conspicuous wastage of fabric.
Oh, interesting.
So that you like, haha, I do not need to have all of the fabric.
That's interesting.
I have enough to afford to waste some.
I see. That's interesting. Yeah. Now, Alma, last fashion question, I think. Of course, keep them coming if you want. But she's asking, what is your favorite style to actually sew? Or like, is there any favorite like stitch that you like that's historic? Or like, is there a difference in the just making of it?
So 18th century, the 1700s, I think is the most almost like annoying to sew. Because of the way that it's constructed is just so different from what I would generally have an idea to do.
Yeah.
I'm like 1860s because you can authentically do that with a sewing machine.
Oh, okay, right, because the sewing machine's around.
Exactly. Yeah. So I do enjoy that because sewing on a sewing machine is so much faster. When I am hand sewing, I do like a good back stitch or a good running stitch. Depending on what I'm doing. Running stitch, if I need to like gather, do, just something nice and quick. Yeah. But back stitch is the strong one that's gonna stay there.
All right, the back stitch. Sweet. Now, let's see. We've got, Karen. Oh, no. Josh has our first. No, Richard has our first. I had so many questions. I was just like scrolling up. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, so Richard has our first question or second question of the day. Wow, I'm on it. Okay, so Richard says, hi, guys. I have a question. In World War II, in the American Army, what was the difference between tanks like the M4 Sherman and tank destroyers like the M18 Hellcat? And I will look both of those up while you talk about that. So
so there was a division of tactical theory right about the time World War II started that said we could make a tank, but we also need to destroy tanks. So what if we created this thing that was faster than a tank and could shoot harder than a tank to destroy tanks? Hence the tank destroyer. They had also tried this in the years leading up to World War I with the concept of a battleship and a battle cruiser. Between a battleship and a battle cruiser, it's the same difference between a tank and a tank destroyer. Battleship and a tank are heavier armored to protect more. A battle cruiser and a tank destroyer don't have nearly as much armor because they want it to be, in theory, faster, with the theory that speed provides its own defense. The practical experience, both in the naval aspects of World War I and the ground aspects of World War II, prove that that is not always the case, because you're still going to get hit by big shells. And when a big shell hits you, it's going to go through very thin armor. Some of those, and Richard, you may know this, some of those tank destroyers had super thin, their turrets, like you normally think of a tank with a big turret with 3 or 4 inches of armor. Some of those tank destroyers had maybe not even an inch of armor. Some of them didn't even have a top.
Wow.
So that they could theoretically move faster and the turret could pivot faster and mount at least as heavy, if not a heavier gun. Again, it was a tactical theory put into practice during World War II, and what the American Army came eventually to decide, as Patton had told them from the very beginning, the best thing to kill a tank with is another tank.
Another tank. Now, when we get to these tanks, so I've got the M4 Sherman Cougar. Is that correct? So we got. Let me take a look at this.
Oh, that's the name of the tank. That's an M4 Sherman.
But they called this specific tank. That's cute.
That tank's name was the Cougar.
Oh, that's fun.
It's got a 75 millimeter. No, actually, that's a 76 millimeter gun. You see, it's got extra treads put on the front of the tank to add extra armor protection. And you can see there the welds. This is one of the flat side. This is they did 2 kinds. The Sherman started off with a full turret and body that was cast, and they went to plates because they can make them faster. But that is a real tank. It is a medium tank, and could not really match up to the heavier tanks that Germany had. Yes, that is a tank destroyer. Now notice it looks bigger. Yeah. It may even look meaner, and it has a much bigger gun. But the trick is that armor is way thinner than what's going to be on that M4. Again, you can see those 2 guys popped out the top. Yeah. The thing has no actual roof on the turret.
Okay.
So it could, and it's got more bogey wheels and road wheels there. It could theoretically go faster. It could shoot harder, but it has a comparatively low survivability rate.
Yeah.
when it goes up against tanks. And why would it go up against not tanks? Because it's a tank destroyer. So those two vehicles, and part of the reason that America kept the Sherman was an okay tank. It could not stand up tank to tank for most of the German tanks. Their guns were bigger, their armor was thicker. The trick is that German tanks could be driven out of the factory, put on a railroad, and taken 200 miles to the front. American tanks had to be sent across the ocean, which means they had to be lighter, they had to fit into Liberty ships, and you had to fit more of them into Liberty ships.
Okay.
So the M4 Sherman was a much more appropriate tank for Americans because they had to ship everything overseas, and American tanks were mechanically much better. Their engines and transmissions could last for thousands of miles, whereas German tanks could last for hundreds of miles before they needed overhaul. That makes a huge difference in how many tanks you have in the front line. Same thing for those tank destroyers. They tried to make them so that they could be easily maintained, but that just makes them even more liable to be thin.
Yeah, I mean, so with the pros and cons of each, do you favor one over the other, or is the other one just
let's put it this way.
Yeah.
They didn't make tank destroyers after 1945.
I see. Yeah.
Part of that is because the concept proved not as applicable on the battlefield as the theorists had thought, number one. Number two, they started to develop anti-tank handheld or squad-used anti-tank weapons that were almost as effective.
Wow. What would I look up for that?
Like bazookas.
Oh, so
the Germans were the leaders in that too. Surprisingly, the Germans had.
So we're talking about 1940s bazooka.
Oh yeah, look up. Yeah. The Germans had a very big. Oh no! I'm sorry. Actually, the Americans came up with a bazooka first, an M1 or an M2 bazooka.
Bazooka M1.
Which was basically a rocket-propelled, shaped charge that was like a 2-inch. Had a 2-inch rocket that it could fire into an armored vehicle. Yeah, that's it.
There you have it.
It's man portable, right? Well, the problem is that the Americans didn't quite make it big enough. Like I said, it only takes a 2-inch. It only takes a 2-inch rocket, and that worked great against trucks and thin-skinned. It would work great against a tank destroyer, but not so much against tanks. Well, the Germans captured some, and they said, this is a very good design.
Oops.
Shadowlands.
But
that's next.
Yes, but perhaps it should be made bigger, and so the Germans captured this design and made a bigger one called a Panzerschreck.
Oh, let me look up that one.
Yeah, which is a 3.5-inch rocket, which would take out anything the Allies.
Okay, you said Panz. Oh, I found it.
Yep. Yeah, did you? Okay. P-A-N-Z-E-R-S-C-H.
Yeah. Oh, here's a cool diagram. Let me to show all the things. All right, here we go. And kablam! All right, so.
No, that's a Panzerfaust.
Oh no! Okay.
As everyone.
This one.
No, wait. Actually, go up that one. No, down.
Down. This
Click
one.
that one.
Okay.
There is a American bazooka and a German Panzerschreck.
Oh, cool! You can
compare. You can just tell by the tubes how much bigger the rockets were.
Yeah.
Wow.
And see those little shields in the front? Those are not bulletproof. Those are to protect the user from the back blast of the rocket as it left the muzzle of the tube.
Wow.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we need a whole program on bazookas.
Bazookas and Panzerschrecks and Panzerfaust. Panzerfaust were actually the most effective of them all. They were a disposable one-time use anti-tank weapon.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Fascinating stuff. Thank you, Richard.
It really is. Yeah. Thanks, Richard. That's awesome. Now we have our. I'm going to go to Josh's question, and we, of course, as usual, we have our Josh. What if? So today's Josh what if is, what if William McKinley had not been assassinated? How would the early 1900s have played out without Theodore Roosevelt?
I think we did that one.
We may have done
Joshua,
this one
you're
before.
tricking us. I swear you've asked this question before.
We may have talked about. I think it might be familiar. Now, who would? One of the questions is who would have been the candidates in 1904 to 1912? I mean, off the top of your head, like, are there any?
I think.
Well, William would have run again.
Oh, yeah.
I assume if he had not.
So likely would have gained the incumbency.
He probably would have done another term.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I bet after that, unless he would, given the way the country was going, unless he was just a total disaster, Roosevelt may have followed him up.
Well, and because that has been the current, at least, pipeline is vice president to president.
Right.
Not how it was in the beginning, but starting in the 1900s, that would not be unheard of.
So, since this is what if,
yes,
let's assume McKinley is not killed, but he is. This is Glen's take on it, Joshua.
Yes.
You ready? Since we're going with a fanciful what if, McKinley is shot but is not killed. He still needs some time to recover, so the vice president takes over on a temporary basis, shows the country what a good leader he could be when McKinley comes back in. McKinley has a successful term, maybe even has a successful second term, which means then that the country has that going, the party has that momentum. They've seen what Roosevelt can do, and then Roosevelt, instead of going in that early, goes in after McKinley and perhaps gets elected. Maybe what that does is it pushes the Roosevelt version of the progressive agenda forward into the presidency, which means Roosevelt is president when World War I starts.
That could change
And when
everything.
World War I starts and Roosevelt is president, America is in at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boom.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm glad we kind of went that
makes
angle.
me have to sit my pickelhaube down
Yeah.
because Germany ain't going to make it that much longer if America is in that early.
Right, yeah.
Because Roosevelt very much would have been bullish.
Oh, yeah. He was very much into meddling into other situations.
And it's not just that the America goes in first, that America goes in earlier with its army, but that means the American Navy, which was it was the third or fourth, I want to say third largest Navy in the world at the time the war starts, goes in also against Germany, which makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Thinking of Lusitania, there.
It doesn't even get that point because the American Navy starts going after those German U-boats.
Oh, that's true. They're being aggressive.
Right, and that means the American Merchant Marine joins with the British Merchant Marine to bring supplies and troops and things to mainland Europe and supplies to Great Britain. So
that would be interesting because the war would have perhaps not been as long and or as trenchy.
I think it still would have been trenchy.
But not as trenchy.
But not trenchy for as long.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah.
There still would have been trenches, but just not like
4 years worth
for
of
4
them.
years.
Yeah. Well, fascinating as usual, Josh. Thank you so much.
Now I'm going to have to write
a
Joshua what if set of novels.
There you go.
What if?
Now our next question is for Marie, as it is fashion related, and you already saw a brief sneak peek, and that is from Karen about chatelaines. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes,
Chatelaines? Okay.
Chatelaines.
Looks kind of French. So these are really cool looking accessories. Marie, why don't you give us the broad overview, and then we'll kind of dive into what I could figure out with the surprising ancient history about it.
So a chatelaine is essentially like a fancy keychain, but it doesn't just have keys on it. It can, but doesn't have to. That you hang at your waist. So
I'll get a picture for us here.
Yes.
Here we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
So this one looks like she does not have keys on hers. This one looks like it could even be like a sewing chatelaine where you have like a thing for your thimbles. She looks like she has a watch. She has little scissors on them. So it's really just like helpful things that you want to carry around with you.
A blank one.
This one could be one for just, add your own accessories. Some of them, there's also like skirt lifters, chatelaine situations that are going on now. She looks like she has everything.
This is quite a bold one. This is the kind I would have. I would have just everything on me at my person. Yeah.
They're like a stylish woman's Leatherman.
Looks like she has pocket watches are popular. Sewing chatelaines are very popular. Again, you see some of the sewing instruments there.
Oh, this
that
is one that's
looks
mentioned.
Very
this
old.
is like this is more the grooming set, like nail cleaning
an air
and
scoop,
stuff.
a nail poker, and a set of tweezers.
Yeah,
this is Nordic style, so interesting, like early medieval. Now, speaking of the ancient stuff, I mean, when I was going, let's just go to the good old Wikipedia page, and it was talking about how some ancient world Samnite women,
Samnite,
italic people, cool. did wear something similar, and again, ancient Roman ladies wore them for ear scoops. Ooh, so romantic. Well, getting all that wax out or something.
You know what? We also need to do a thing on ancient hygiene, because
that's a cool idea.
Archaeologists have found so many Roman, Greek, medieval ear scoops, tweezers.
Yep.
I'm gonna add that to program topics. Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Yes.
Which, not to get too deep into it, but if we have problems with earwax in the 21st century, surely they did too. And there's only so many direct methods you can use.
Yeah. Someone on that same line. Let's see. We're asking about the history of tweezers. Karen was, I think, curious about tweezers. Is there a history of tweezers? That seems like such a useful tool, right?
Way back.
Yeah, tweezer history.
I have a couple of sets of tweezers and ear scoops for those olden time periods myself. I'll have to bring those in.
Wikipedia tells us that Asiatic tweezers were braised together and commonly used in Mesopotamia and India from about 3000 BC. That's really cool. And some say perhaps for also dealing with lice as part of it, just like getting out of there. So tweezers, very, very old. Yeah. Very useful, very old.
Well, if you just think about it, it's two pieces of metal fused together and then just, to pull things out of where you can't quite get with your fingers.
So good job, ancient Mesopotamians.
Yeah.
Bet they had awesome eyebrows too. So now let's see. We've got our next question. Okay. This is from Wendy, and Wendy says, today in my class, this is Olivia. Today we were in my class, we were talking about Reconstruction and the presidents, and our notes said that Johnson was impeached but not removed. How was he not removed? So I guess just explaining what it means to be impeached versus actually being removed as president.
So the House impeaches the president, and then basically make recommendations to the Senate to bring formal charges which could lead to his removal as president. I believe the same thing happened with Bill Clinton. He was impeached by the House, but was not removed from office by the Senate. It turned into a censure the same way that Johnson's did. And that's the way the Constitution's set up. That way both houses have specific roles to play. Those checks and balances are there in case, it doesn't just turn into a gigantic partisan grumble match of just trying to remove every president that sits willy-nilly. That's the deal, is that constitutionally the House impeaches, the Senate charges.
Now, why was Johnson impeached? Was it directly connected to anything to do with Reconstruction, or like?
It was.
Remember.
Johnson was a character, but honestly, his impeachment had as much to do with political motivations and machinations as it did bad character. Was he a drunk? Yes. He was not a very moral and capable president, but he was also a Democrat. And Lincoln had been a Republican. And so he had added Johnson sort of as a boost to get those votes in the 1864 election. It worked, but when Lincoln is assassinated and dies and Johnson steps in, Johnson is very, very resistant to the radical Republican version of what Reconstruction is supposed to be, with eliminating most white Southern males' ability to vote at all. And how some even suggested land confiscation and redistribution. So Johnson very much opposed that, and so to try and remove him from office because of his intransigence towards the radical Republican method or desires for Reconstruction, they impeached him. That was their effort, is to try to remove him from office, and it didn't take because of the Senate not carrying through.
Yeah. So a little bit of context there for you, Olivia. Hope that helped. Thank you for the question. And Priscilla asks for Sally. Sally wants to know more about powdered wigs. Why were they worn and when did it start? So I know that y'all both probably know this, but Marie, you want to take this one away?
Sure. And of course, men also wore powdered wigs, so we can give some more perspective on that. So people wore their natural hair, and were not like super big into wigs. In the ancient, you had like some hair like products and helpers, perhaps you might call it. But we don't see like those big Marie Antoinette style wigs until we really get to Marie Antoinette's era. The 1700s is like the heyday for wigs, especially powdered wigs like you think of. Otherwise, into the Renaissance, medieval times, you might even have like horsehair that you use to kind of like help pad out your hair if you wanted like those thicker, fuller braids, and your hair was thin. Use horsehair. So people have been using like almost like wig pieces for a very long time, but we don't see like full-on wigs until really you get to like late 1600s, early 1700s. 1700s, huge heyday for wigs. People stopped wearing their natural hair, or if they did, sometimes they might keep it short, and then they would wear a powdered wig on top of that. I mean, an easy way to say that is fashion. It's just what people were doing at the time. Some people have linked it to more hygienic reasons of, keeping your hair short so you don't have to worry about like lice or things like that, and then using the wigs on top of that. But I mean, wigs are also subject to having lice live on them. But it was really more of a fashionable thing. Also, if you have wigs, you can kind of have it pre-styled.
Oh yeah, let me show you some examples I found. You can see if this works for you.
Yeah, so you can have that pre-styled. I mean, trying to do that to your hair every single day with the products that you had would take incredibly long. But if you just had a wig in which you just wore while you were out, and then you didn't, because really the whole thing about like when your hair gets messed up is when you're sleeping on it. So there are some cultures and countries in which like if you do your hair, you have to sleep on like a certain way, or you have like certain like almost like hair sleeping blocks that basically like keep you still, so you don't turn and like mess up your hair. Another way around that is just styling your hair and then taking it off and then putting it back on in the morning. It also gives you more hair.
Yeah.
Because some of those hairstyles that got, like the 3-foot tall wigs that you see at the French court, physically impossible to do with most people's natural hair.
Yeah. Karen actually just said, someone asked how long it takes Dolly Parton to do her hair, and I can't imagine. So maybe,
about 10 seconds.
Well, because she probably goes
Dolly is a wig wearer of old.
Yes.
But she's never hidden it either.
Yeah, right.
That's what's so great.
Yeah. So fun, yeah.
Another reason to love Dolly Parton.
I know.
Yeah. Oh man.
But essentially it was more just the fashion of the time. People go through ups and downs of liking dark hair or liking really light hair. This was a time of liking just white hair. They thought it was just really cool.
Very, very elite and dignified. And Libba,
distinguished.
You can find a picture of a big cone on the face, like powdering the wig, that gentlemen would wear, and I guess women would wear this too. They would put the wig on, and of course their fingers would touch it as they put it on and adjust it. So they would need to repowder the wig once it was on the body. But you don't want to get it on your face, so they have these huge, goofy-looking cones.
Funny. Here's an illustration of it, just a cartoon. That's great. So let me get that for y'all.
And also the makeup of the time was also very white powder.
Yeah,
but
right.
Wig powder and face powder, different.
Yeah.
So here he is wearing the cone.
It looks like a plague doctor mask.
Yeah, it does. It does.
He's got the the shawl over to keep the rest of his clothes powder free.
Wow.
Even though it looks like he's still in his dressing gown.
Yeah, right. No, that's awesome.
Oh, and look, and his servant man has a comb stuck in his hair.
Oh,
because that's where he's put it while he was
cute.
working on his master's hair. That's hilarious.
I love it. That's really neat. Very cool.
Yeah.
That seems like a fun fashion program of some sort. Just
wigs.
Wigs over time, because I'm sure that they come in and out of popularity and stuff. But so that's really neat. Awesome question. Thank you so much, Sally.
Yeah.
And we have a great question from Priscilla. So, Emmy. This is through Priscilla. So Emmy wants to know when and where frying food started. Now we've got. I do know that we have. If you're curious about Southern food in particular, we do have a really awesome program, which I'll throw a link into the chat with that about the history of Southern cuisine, which of course has quite a lot of frying in it, as well as like barbecue and all that good stuff. But as far as like just frying something in fat, I mean, that's got to be a really old way to cook,
that's like
right?
from the beginning.
like
just slightly above Neanderthal level technology.
Yeah.
Because you don't, depending on how you do it, you don't even need a metal frying pan. You can use a rock or a clay vessel to do that with, because you're basically putting something that you heat in between the heat source and whatever you're cooking. That's frying, right?
Yeah.
That's really what frying is, as opposed to broiling it, which is where you directly put the meat on top of the heat, or you boil it, which means you've put water in it to transfer the heat. So frying goes way back. It is also sometimes not considered. Sometimes it's crucial to the way you fix certain foods. Sometimes, even way back when, they considered it not quite as healthy as other means of making the meat. As a matter of fact, this ties in with our past family day, that George Washington issued orders to his men and to the officers that the men are frying their meat too much. They need to either broil it or boil it, but not fry it.
They need to dab it with a paper towel.
With a French supplied paper towel. Because it wasn't as healthy, and it fried out too much of the grease, which was considered, there's a lot of calories in grease, and when you're this big around and almost starving anyway, you need all the calories you can get, even if it's from an unhealthy source. So there's lots of different health views, even going back hundreds of years, as to how good frying is. But man, everything that gets fried is so good.
Yes.
Fried
so
Oreos.
Oh man, that'd be really fun. Yeah, what's the most like ancient thing we could fry? Like
dinosaur meat.
You can fry everything.
Good old slab of mammoth.
I know.
Probably some cornmeal has been used there a long time.
Corn patties, you can fry those. I mean, you can fry anything.
Okay,
you can fry anything.
People fry Oreos. People, corn dogs.
Yeah. But I will tell this story too, that one of the first times I did a over the fire cooking demonstration here for a group of people, I had my period frying pan and I had it over the fire, and I cracked a couple eggs, and first I put a little salt pork in there to grease it up, and then cracked the eggs, and a group of people gathered around. They'd seen food cooked exactly like this before, but not over a fire. They had never seen it over a fire.
Oh, that's cool.
And it doesn't take long to fry a couple of eggs, and I got them over. Then I plopped them on a plate, and then this little boy came up like this close. He's like, "You're not gonna eat those, are you? Can you eat those?" And I went, "Oh, you want a bite?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
And he was convinced they tasted 100 times better because they had been cooked over that fire.
Oh, you know what? I bet that does add a lot of like really fun smoky flavor.
Oh, it's the ambiance.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. No, that's excellent. I love it. So and I think I did throw in the origins of Southern cuisine, or Guada did. Thank you, Guada. So yeah, y'all check that out. That's actually released from our last season of members program. So now is the time to, if you're not a member, to enjoy it. And I think this will be our last question. And if I did not get to anybody's questions, because we actually had quite a lot today, which is awesome. Let me know in the chat, and we will mark it for next time. But our last question is about the beauty mark. Now, of course, yes, there are natural beauty marks with like a mole and everything, but where did the artificial beauty mark kind of come into style? And I was looking at this. I don't know if you're... Do you want me to just go into the Wikipedia, Marie, or do you know a little bit about...
I know a little bit.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
Because that is, again, one of those like French court things that we associate with like the Marie Antoinette and the rest of the French court. Marie Antoinette, I like Marie Antoinette. We share a same name, so I refer
Yeah.
to her.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Too soon.
Yeah, right. Let's look at Marie Antoinette's beauty mark. And sort of get
But
a
beauty marks are
example.
also, they were popular even before, like Marie Antoinette. Going back really, I think into almost the 1600s. We don't really
You're
see
right,
them in the
yeah.
1500s, but we see them in the 1600s. And sometimes we call them beauty marks, but some people call them basically pock marks.
Oh yeah, and there's also a French name called mouches, which is actually the French word for fly, which I think is so funny. You have little flies on your face.
But sometimes people would use them because this is when smallpox is particularly bad, just in history. And people who survived smallpox would sometimes have like horribly pocked skin, where the smallpox would
It was
scar.
Yeah.
So they would take these beauty marks and like basically use them to like cover their pock marks.
Oh, that's interesting. That's amazing. I had no idea. Wow.
Some people did.
Right. Not all of them. Yeah.
Not everybody, but some people did. But then it just became very popular. People would use like stars, moon. It's almost just like children just sticking stickers onto their face.
I actually have this really interesting photo on Wikipedia of both a white and a black woman.
This portrait is incredible.
Oh, you've seen it? Yeah.
Yes,
Let me get this
it's
one.
actually kind of new. They just discovered it.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yes.
Let's learn a little bit about this. Let's see if we can take a look for a second, and then I'll see what information I
If
can
it hadn't
find.
taken so long to paint that portrait, I would swear they would have said, "Hey, let's do this for the selfie."
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But
It
you
is
know, they were
interesting.
also bored back then a lot. I'm sure
Right.
bored rich people with money.
Let's do
Yeah.
this before we get married and our husbands won't let us.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Now these ladies, I wanna go back to the Wikipedia article that actually talked about them specifically. So, whoops, that's Marie Antoinette. Yeah.
Libba, do you know when that portrait was made?
That's what I'm looking at here.
1660s is going to be my guess.
Okay, 1660s is your guess.
Definitely 1600s.
Let me go ahead and share. Maybe y'all can see it
just based off of
before
the
I
fashion
can.
that they have.
Now let's see. It says double portrait of two women. It
Circa
was sold.
1650.
Look
I
at
was so
that.
close.
That's awesome. Nice. That's awesome. So yeah, the two figures whose clothes, hair, and jewelry point to fashions of the period. They're also wearing decorative patches. An equally voguish feature.
It became very popular.
That's so fascinating.
It's like a weird trend. Like sometimes we have weird trends.
You know?
They had weird
You
trends.
got weird trends too. Nice. It all comes back to makes a connection.
Yeah. And then some people, use them to cover skin blemishes as well.
Yeah, right.
Why not?
Oh, well, guys, that's the perfect timing. This has been so much fun. Before we go, I do want to encourage anybody who is not a digital member or a member of the Northeast Georgia History Center to consider becoming a member. Guado, would you mind throwing the link for memberships? It's only $5 a month or $45 a year to enjoy our digital members only programs. And we have a lot of fun stuff coming up in 2023. If you joined us for our telethon, for our fun game show and trivia nights, we're definitely doing more of that. And we've got some really great program ideas. So I'm very excited for 2023 for our memberships. And let's see, we also got lots of great events coming up. So I know, Karen, you had asked if we have our events listed, and we do. So if y'all go to our website, Guada, if you can drop a link in the chat for our events, you can stay tuned for our upcoming events. Where we got a lot of cool stuff, including a historic Valentine's tea, which is going to be really, really fun. So. This has been awesome. We will see y'all next month for LoFi History. This is if anybody's just joining us, this is a monthly program. So we will see y'all on, it looks like Tuesday, February 7th. Thanks everyone for joining us. It's always fun to have y'all, and we will see y'all next time.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Bye.